You have heard about Miami. You have heard about Tampa. You have heard about Orlando. Every analyst, every YouTube channel, every real estate newsletter covers the same 3 markets in Florida as if the rest of the state does not exist. But there is a 200-mile stretch of coastline in northwest Florida that the entire national real estate media has been ignoring for years. And the people who live there know exactly what that feels like. This is the video about the Florida Panhandle housing market that nobody has bothered to make. Not because the data is not there, but because the analysts covering Florida real estate are mostly based in Miami, and the Panhandle does not fit neatly into the South Florida narrative. What the data actually shows is 5 distinct markets, each with its own price trajectory, its own demand driver, and its own risk profile. Walton County does not look like Bay County. Destin does not look like Pensacola. And if you own property in any of these markets, you need to understand which of those 5 stories you are actually living in. My name is David Cole. I am the editor-in-chief of Housing Intel. Before we get into the data, subscribe to Housing Intel if you have not already. The data we are about to cover is moving fast, and the window to act on it is short. Subscribers get every report the moment it drops. Hit subscribe. Now let us look at what is actually happening. The first market in the Panhandle corridor is Pensacola and Escambia County, which anchors the western end of the region. Pensacola is the Panhandle's most populated metro area, with approximately 510,000 people in the metro. It is also the most structurally stable market in the corridor because it has something that most Panhandle markets do not: a demand base that does not depend on vacation buyers. Naval Air Station Pensacola is one of the largest naval installations in the United States and serves as the primary pilot training facility for the entire U.S. military. That military presence creates a permanent, non-discretionary demand base for housing that does not evaporate when mortgage rates rise or tourism slows. According to Redfin data from January 2026, the median home price in Pensacola was $355,000, up 7% year over year. Homes were spending 103 days on the market. The broader Escambia County market had a median around $315,000 with stable year-over-year performance. This is a market where buyers have more time and more leverage than they did 2 years ago, but it is not a market in distress. The military anchor creates a floor under demand that does not exist in the more tourism-dependent markets to the east. The second market is the Navarre and Santa Rosa County corridor, which sits between Pensacola and Fort Walton Beach along Highway 98. This is where the data diverges sharply from the Pensacola story. According to local real estate data reported in late 2024, active listings in Santa Rosa County were up 69% year over year. The median sales price had dipped 2.4%. Closed sales were down 8.5%. The overvaluation rate, which measures how far above long-term price fundamentals values have risen, stood at 14.3%. The Reventure app's home price forecast score for the broader Pensacola metro, which includes Santa Rosa County, stood at 33 out of 100, well into buyer's market territory. For context, a score below 45 indicates a declining market. What this data describes is a market that got pulled upward by the post-pandemic migration surge, is now normalizing, and is carrying an inventory overhang that gives buyers negotiating power they have not had in years. For a buyer who wants coastal Florida lifestyle at a price below the national radar, Santa Rosa County in 2026 is worth a serious look. Before we go further, I want to hear from you directly. Drop a comment below. Are you currently living in the Panhandle, thinking about buying there? Or do you own investment property in this corridor? Tell us exactly which county and what you are seeing on the ground. The data we collect from this community shapes every report we publish next. And if you know someone making a real estate decision in the Panhandle right now, share this video with them. What follows is the information they need before they sign anything. The third market is the Emerald Coast Corridor, centered on Destin and Fort Walton Beach in Santa County. This market has two completely different stories running simultaneously, and the data is clear on which is which. Fort Walton Beach, which functions primarily as a workforce and military housing market adjacent to Eglin Air Force Base, the largest Air Force installation in the world by acreage, was carrying a median home price around $367,000 as of October 2025, up 5.2% year over year, according to Redfin. Homes were spending 87 days on market. That is a functioning, military demand-anchored market showing modest appreciation with reasonable velocity. Destin, which sits along the coast and functions as a high-end vacation and second home market, tells an entirely different story. The Redfin median for Destin in January 2026 was $623,000, up 9.8% year over year on paper, but homes were spending 149 days on market compared to 77 days the year before. Volume was falling. That combination of rising price with dramatically rising days on market is not evidence of a healthy market. It is evidence of a market where a small number of high-priced transactions are pushing the median up, while the broader buyer pool is sitting on its hands, waiting to see how far sellers will negotiate. The fourth market is Walton County and the 30A corridor, which is the most polarizing real estate story in the entire Panhandle and possibly in all of Northwest Florida. 30A is the scenic highway that runs through a string of architecturally planned communities between Destin and Panama City Beach, including Seaside, Rosemary Beach, Alice Beach, and Watercolor. These are not typical beach towns. They are design-led, walkability-focused, lifestyle-branded communities that command a premium entirely separate from standard Florida coastal real estate. The Zillow average home value in Walton County was $665,464 as of their most recent data, down 5.9% over the past year. The Redfin median for June 2025 was $630,000, down 7.1% year over year. Homes were spending 103 days on market compared to 88 the previous year. This is the correction you would expect in a market that appreciated dramatically during the pandemic migration surge and is now normalizing as that migration has pulled back sharply. According to ResiClub Analytics, Florida saw net domestic migration of just 23,000 in 2025 compared to 314,000 in 2022. The deep-pocketed out-of-state buyers who drove 30A's pandemic appreciation are simply not arriving in the same numbers. But what the 7% correction does not tell you is that a $630,000 median is still $630,000. 30A is not distressed. It is expensive real estate that is moderately less expensive than it was 2 years ago. The fifth and most complex market in the corridor is Bay County, which contains Panama City and Panama City Beach. This market deserves more analysis than it receives because its data tells a story that does not fit neatly into either the Florida recovery narrative or the Florida crash narrative. Bay County is the market that Hurricane Michael, a Category 5 storm, made direct landfall on in October 2018. 7 years later, the insurance market, the construction market, and the housing market in Bay County are still being priced for the ongoing consequences of that event. The Central Panhandle Association of Realtors reported in early 2025 that days on market in Bay County had reached 102 days, an 18.6% increase from the prior year. Active listings were up 14.8%. Closed sales were down 13.5%. Their own president stated directly that insurance costs were a primary factor suppressing buyer activity, with premium burdens increasing monthly carrying costs to the point where buyers were forced into lower price tiers or out of the market entirely. In Panama City Beach specifically, the Redfin median was down 13% year over year by mid-2025. For a market with world-class Gulf beaches and a well-established short-term rental ecosystem, a 13% price decline is a signal that the fundamentals of insurability and carrying cost are overriding the lifestyle appeal that has historically driven demand there. Here is the comprehensive picture that emerges when you look at all 5 Panhandle markets together. Walton County and 30A rank as the 3rd fastest growing county in Florida by annualized population growth rate from 2020 to 2026 at 4.05%, behind only St. Johns and Osceola counties, according to World Population Review data. That growth is real and structural, tied to the lifestyle premium the coast commands, but it arrived faster than the market could sustain at pandemic-era pricing and is now resetting to a more durable level. Okaloosa County, anchored by 2 of the nation's largest military installations, Eglin Air Force Base and Hurlburt Field, maintains demand stability that insulates it from the correction happening in adjacent vacation markets. Escambia County and Pensacola carry a similar military demand floor and are absorbing the inventory overhang that followed the post-pandemic surge without the kind of price distress visible in Bay County. And Bay County continues to work through the long-term consequences of both Hurricane Michael and the insurance crisis it catalyzed, making it the highest risk market in the corridor for buyers who do not have a clear-eyed view of carrying costs. What an informed buyer or owner does with this data depends entirely on which of those 5 markets they are in. In Pensacola and Escambia, the data supports patient buyers who negotiate carefully and do not overpay for the lifestyle premium. In Santa Rosa County, the data suggests buyers have more leverage than at any point since 2019 and should use it. In Fort Walton Beach and inland Okaloosa, the military demand anchor provides stability that the vacation markets lack. In 30A and Walton County, the data says the correction from pandemic peaks is real, but the underlying premium is structural, meaning this is a market where quality and location still command prices that reflect genuine scarcity. And in Bay County, the data says the carrying cost question, specifically the insurance question, must be the first question answered before any other analysis matters. A beach house that costs $4,000 a year to insure in 2026 and $8,000 in 2030 in a market where prices have already fallen 13% is a financial instrument that requires a different calculation than a house in a non-coastal market. Housing Intel publishes 3 reports every week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Every one of them is built on verified data, not speculation, not opinion, not real estate industry. Talking points? Subscribe if you want the full picture, and share this video if someone you care about needs to hear it. We will be back with more.